Hi, it's Lane the Nebraska Barefoot Guy. And one of the words that fascinate me is the word inclination. And there's a and how it works in our neural system. And so I did a little bit of research on this. So hopefully I could read this and make sense of it. Because we have certain inclinations that are just a part of who we are from day one. But then we have other inclinations that come later out of experiences. So let me read some of this and see if I can make it make sense. Because for some of the things that we like and don't like comes from these inclinations. And let me read it and see if it makes sense. So inclinations, the built-in tendencies that move us towards certain thoughts, feelings, and behaviors before we consciously choose anything. So they just automatically happen. It's built into our nervous system. You don't decide to have them. They're just there. It is this automatic pull towards or away from something. If you have inclinations, or you have the inclination implanted since birth, and see, I'd like to think that's from God. I'm a Christian. But you have these inclinations that are just there from birth. Then you have the other inclinations that are developed. I know some people will just say, well, I've always been that way. In some things, that could be true. But in other ways, whether you realize it or not, they're not. Some of them were developed over time. So I'll get into that here in a second. Then so your brain remembers what brings you feelings of like safety, feeling good, feeling relief, feeling comfort, feeling love. If something or an act makes you feel better, or makes you feel loved, or makes you feel safe, then there you'll start to develop inclinations. Because in your subconscious, you know, when this happens, I feel this way. When that happens, I feel that way. So those inclinations are developed. And then you have the other ones that are just automatic. So you got two different inclinations working here. And I'm sorry if I'm boring you. I just think this is fascinating. Eventually, these inclinations become your identity. This is just who I am. They move behavior towards a preference. And then it becomes an identity. So those are the two inclinations working together to become your identity. So this is how inclinations work. You don't think, I should want this. You feel, I want this. See the difference of an inclination? It's not you developing an idea, I want this. You just feel you want that. Okay? And then once you have that, you try to explain it to yourself. This is kind of deep, actually. This is kind of deep. Having an inclination doesn't make that inclination happen. Just because you want whatever that inclination is pushing you towards or away from doesn't, let you have it or let you get rid of it. It's just a feeling, right? So An inclination is involuntary. It's automatic, whether you developed it or it was imprinted on you from birth. But the action to fulfill that inclination is voluntary. So you could have the inclination, a bad one, that you just like to go around killing people. That could be your inclination. But for you to actually do that, you have to voluntarily go after it to do it. So you could have an inclination that you suppress because you know it goes against morals and ethics and culture. It's kind of deep, right? So, for example, I think of, some guys love blondes. They love blonde women or whatever. They've always loved blonde, and they don't know why. And some love brunettes, and they don't know why. So some of that can be imprinted. Some people could like certain foods because it makes them feel comfort. It might make them feel loved because from the time they were tiny, growing up, whenever the family got together and had whatever spaghetti, it was always a warm, inviting, time where you felt safe and loved. So you actually like the spaghetti. So, anyways, how our mind works are kind of interesting. So you want to be you say, well, my inclination is to be barefoot. I can't say that. Personally, I can't say that was an inclination. But it could have been. It could have been a developed inclination. It could be a developed inclination because I felt a freedom when I wasn't in shoes and socks. I felt a freedom that I might have developed from my childhood. So even though there was years I wasn't barefoot, I always had an inclination towards it because I felt like it was a comfortable thing to do. I felt that freedom when I was barefoot. You could probably say things about clothes. Because I know when I was a little kid, a real little kid, I mean before kindergarten, before all that, my mom had a hard time keeping clothes on me because I just didn't like having clothes on, So that was kind of there from day one. I hated clothes. So that's kind of an inclination I was kind of born with rather than developed. Now, obviously, with culture and everything, your act is voluntary. Just because you have that inclination doesn't mean you do it. But I suppose there's that freedom from clothes too. So I guess freedom in itself could be an inclination. So some of that applies to being barefoot because you have this freedom from being bound by something. Obviously, you get more sensations from being barefoot and feeling the ground and all that. So there's other benefits there besides grounding, textures and feeling and things like that. But I just think when I try to look at this, is this a God-given inclination or is it a developed inclination? And then why do you have it? Why do you prefer, the opposite sex versus the same sex? Well, oh man, this will get me in trouble. Biblically speaking, we've been programmed to go with the opposite sex. So same sex wouldn't, in that narrative of Christianity, same sex would be not a programmed inclination. But you could see how it could be a developed one, especially if somebody felt more loved, more safety and security and comfort with the same sex group, that they could develop more love and affection and drawn into that. because they had developed that inclination versus a God-given inclination where it was just automatic. I couldn't help myself. Now, it might be hard to go back through your history and figure out how that came from, because that could have developed really early in your life. And that may not be a good example. And I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a theologian. I'm not any of those things. I'm just trying to use that for example. You know, why do some guys like big busty women and other guys like women with whatever, a better behind, you know? Because I don't know how you feel safety and security and love with all that, but I do think some of that could be just program. You're programmed for that. Man, I hope I'm not making a mess out of this. And I want to be a friendly place for everybody. But I think the inclinations are an interesting factor that draws us towards or pulls us away from something automatically, and then you got to stop and think, well, why did I bite the donut right here? I remember asking my daughter that one time when she took a bite out of a donut, and I stopped her and I said, why did you bite it right there? You could have bit it on this side or that side or rolled it around to this side. Why did you bite it right there? And she was like, I don't know. I don't know. But somehow there's an inclination there that says, hey, this is the spot. You got to start somewhere. This is the spot. Anyways, so I don't know what you call this. Me, an old guy rambling about stuff he probably really doesn't know very much about, but I find inclinations neat. Anyways, I'm Lane, the Nebraska Barefoot Guy, and if you watch this whole thing, I'll be amazed. Anyways, talk to you later. Bye.